Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Hanhart Silva Pistachio And Rosé. This watch is available from hanhart.com for €990. So firstly, let's look at the watch roll that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a genuine leather watch roll, which is housed inside an outer black cardboard box, and that outer cardboard box is housed inside this black sleeve. So I remove the sleeve. Good attention to detail with the watch box, because on the lid we have the Hanhart text logo and 1882 embossed in the lower right corner. So I remove the lid, which is a snug fit to the base, pulls down the flap, and I'll take out the watch roll and show it to you. Genuine leather. Now I want to give due credit to Hanhart here, because they could have taken the less expensive default option of a vinyl or PU leather watch roll. This is made from genuine leather and it has a gorgeous scent. Excellent attention to detail, because on the top we have the Hanhart logo and 1882 embossed. Two straps which are secured onto stainless steel spigots. Flawless stitching around the perimeter of the straps and the watch roll itself, and absolutely gorgeous matte grain finish to the genuine leather. So I'll open it up and show you the interior. Inside we have two flaps which overlap, black stitching matches, and it's got a suede leather interior. And inside we have two straps which are secured by stainless steel poppers, as you can see. And this does a good job because it secures the watch inside from moving around and therefore protects it from any damage in shipping. And again, excellent attention to detail, because in the lower right corner, again, we have Hanhart 1882 embossed. And as I've detailed, 1882 was the foundation of the brand. So Hanhart are currently based in Gothenburg in the Black Forest in Germany, and their watches are made there. So I'll just do it back up and then I'll continue. So with regards to the items that come with a piece, this is the owner's instruction manual, clear concise diagrams. The instructions are in English, and it details the operation of the movement used, which is the Soprod caliber P024 automatic. One also gets this Hanhart branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth, irrespective of the price point of a piece. And lastly, one also gets this Hanhart warranty card, which is cardboard. On the reverse, it details the model name, which is the Pioneer Silva Rosé, and I'll also be showing the Pistachio version, the reference number of the piece, and the serial number. So to clarify, each silver version has a unique serial number which is engraved into the exhibition case back. There's also space to stamp it with the authorised retailer, and also has the website hanhart.com should you wish to purchase the piece directly from Hanhart. So I'll give you the background to the silver. The silver is based upon a vintage Hanhart caliber 3639, which was made in the 1930s. Now, Hanhart have an original 1930s caliber 3639 stored in their museum in Gothenburg in the Black Forest in Germany. The name silver comes from forest, because silver means forest in Latin. So that's appropriate for this piece, because Hanhart watches are made in Gothenburg in the Black Forest in Germany. So in 2023, Hanhart released a new version of the silver, which was based upon the vintage 1930s caliber 3639. So it wasn't a heritage reissue strictly speaking, because it wasn't made to the same proportions and it wasn't a copy of the original caliber 3639, but nonetheless, it did have some design aesthetics and it was inspired by it. So to clarify, it used the same Arabic numeral font on the dial, the same silver dots on the dial, and the same handset style. And of course, proportions were scaled up to modern day specifications and proportions. This is 38.5mm, but nonetheless, one can clearly see the inspiration of this silver piece was the caliber 3639. Now, in 2023, Hanhart released the silver in two colour versions, in black and white dial versions. These two versions, the Pistachio and Rosé respectively, are novelties or new releases of the silver for 2025. However, if the Pistachio and Rosé versions are not to your personal taste, they still sell the white and black versions which were released in 2023 respectively. So I'll review the Pistachio version and then I'll give you wrist shots of both the Pistachio and the Rosé versions. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 38.5mm case diameter. We have a lug-to-lug measurement of 44mm, a thickness of 10.1mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The Milanese mesh bracelet has a slight taper, 20mm at the lugs, gradually tapering down to 19 1.6mm at the flip lock clasp. Flip lock clasp is signed with the original Hanhart vintage logo, and this is something I really like about the silver, because on the dial we have the original vintage 1930s Hanhart logo versus the contemporary 2025 logo, and of course that matches the signed clasp. We have the original 1930s logo as per the caliber 3639, which this is inspired by. So flip lock clasp, as you can see, rather like a dive watch flip lock, and then we have an inner clasp which opens like so. Two hooks which engage on the stainless steel bar, and you close the inner portion first, and then the flip lock overlaps to lock it. Excellent. Double dome sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of the highly reflective nature of the double dome sapphire crystal and the silver dots which are applied to the dial. So as I've detailed, the original caliber 3639 from the 1930s, and Hanhart have one stored in the museum in Gothenburg. It had the same dots on the dial which were metallic, and I like that aesthetic because it is unique to the caliber 3639, and this does give the piece a 1930s vintage aesthetic. Also the hand design, the hand shape is the same as the caliber 3639, and the font on the Arabic numerals as well as the Hanhart original logo. So, good symmetry to the dial because it's a symmetrical dial versus an asymmetrical dial with a date complication. I like the proportions of the Arabic numerals 12, 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10. Perfect clarity to the dial as per the caliber 3639. The font is true to the original, proportions are true. Large black hour markers for the indices, and the black minute 6 contrasts very well with the matte pistachio dial. Of the two versions, Pistachio and Rosé respectively, this pistachio version is my personal favourite. However, I also like the black and white versions of the silver, which were released in 2023, as I've detailed. Either side of the 6 o'clock index, below the 6 Arabic numeral, we have made in Germany, because as I've detailed, this piece, like all Hanhart pieces, is made in Gothenburg in the Black Forest in Germany. It's a nice matte finish to the dial. I like the pistachio tone of it. Because it's matte rather than glossy enamel or sunray finish, it's not shiny and reflective, so when you view the piece straight on, the sapphire crystal has perfect clarity, the AR coating works very well, but what I like is the matte pistachio dial. It doesn't have a textured finish, it's smooth, but it's not shiny and reflective as per a sunray, alternatively glossy enamel dial, therefore the clarity is enhanced. Printing of the dial is stellar. Sharp fonts used for the Arabic numerals, the black minute 6 on the chapter ring. Hanhart's original logo from the 1930s is crisp, it's sharp, it's high definition, and the font is perfectly true to the original. And I like made in Germany, either side of the 6 o'clock index on the dial. What I like about the dial is it's clean, it's minimalist, rather like a Bauhaus dial, because it's not over-branded with unnecessary text or specification. For example, we don't have automatic printed at 6 o'clock, we don't have the water resistance rating, which is 50 metres. This is negligible information for a daily wear piece or potentially a dress piece. So they've got the balance correct, because we simply have the Hanhart logo at 12 but no text at 6. And this does look clean as per the original caliber 3639 from the 1930s, which this is inspired by. Also, the hands are matte black versus being enamel black. They're not glossy, and I like that they're slender. The hand design really is true to the original caliber 3639. What I like is the length of the hands, because the hour hand is broader, but also it extends to the Arabic numerals on the dial, so it's long enough. The minutes hand extends all the way to the minute 6, which is excellent, because one can immediately differentiate between the shorter, wider hour hand and the longer, more slender minute hand. Also, the needle second hand extends all the way to the black minute 6, so the hands are correctly proportioned for the dial size. And what I like about the double dome sapphire crystal is it's very low profile. It almost looks flat, but it does have a slight dome. The other thing I like about it is it's a double dome sapphire crystal, so it's curved on the underside, curved on the top side. The benefit of that versus a single dome sapphire crystal, which is flat on the underside, is when one tilts the piece at an oblique angle, one doesn't get the characteristic distortion or magnification effect that one gets with a single dome sapphire crystal, because it's curved on the underside versus flat. So it's very low profile, doesn't add significant thickness to the piece. Now, subjectively, one could say, well, this would have more of a vintage aesthetic had they used a box top hat crystal, because, of course, the original caliber 3639 from the 1930s predated the use of sapphire crystal, and, of course, acrylic crystals were used in the 1930s. And to give this piece a vintage aesthetic, of course, a acrylic crystal would look very aesthetically pleasing, but of course one has the modern day contemporary benefits of this being sapphire crystal with AR coating glazed, because of course it's harder and more scratch resistant than acrylic. The other benefit is AR coating reduces the glare and the reflective nature. So it really comes down to your personal preference. Do you prefer pieces with a vintage aesthetic of acrylic, or do you prefer the contemporary specification and benefits of sapphire crystal? I do like it's got a slight dome. I think they've made the correct decision by using a double dome sapphire crystal versus boxed top hat crystal, because that would add too much thickness. It would make it 2 meters thicker. The main benefit of this piece is it's very thin. It's only 10.1 millimeters, which is very impressive, bearing in mind it's powered by the Soprod caliber P024 automatic, which is a thick caliber. So one would expect this to be 12 millimeters plus, with a double dome sapphire crystal plus exhibition case back, but it is only 10.1. That's the kind of thickness one would expect with a quartz powered or mechanical manual wind piece without a rotor. So very impressive. Bezel is domed profile, solid 316L grade stainless steel. Flawless mirror polishing to it, and again they've made the correct decision by using a domed profile to the bezel versus a flat profile, because it complements the double dome sapphire crystal and the curvature of the case. What I like about the case is it's mirror polished in between the lugs, mirror polished on the top of the curved lugs and the convex flanks. Nice undercut to the convex flanks, and I like the flats on the end of the lugs, and that contrasts very well with the convex profile to the mid of the flanks, and it's very well done. Flawless mirror polishing to every facet, and I like the curved profile to the end of the lugs rather than having angular profile points. It's just a very aesthetically pleasing case shape, and again it is inspired by the 1930s original caliber 36-39, albeit updated to modern day dimensions of 38.5. So excellent. Milanese bracelet has a very slight taper, 20 to 19.6, as I've detailed. What I like about it is 20mm lug width is correct for a 38.5, so let's check the articulation of the end link on the spring bar. Articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play, so it's a good friction interference fit around the spring bar, and the quality of the end link on the Milanese or cap on the end of the Milanese mesh is excellent. Beautiful luster to it, mirror polish to the top side, underside and flank, and what I like about it is it's got a nice fine weave to the Milanese mesh, and it's not too wide, it doesn't have gaps in the mesh bracelet. This does give the piece a dress watch aesthetic. So what I like about this piece, the silver, and I'll apply this to the black and the white versions produced in 2023, and also these novelties, the Pistachio and Rosé in 2025. The Milanese mesh bracelet gives this piece versatility, because this can be worn as a daily wear piece, but also be worn as a dress piece, because Milanese bracelets of course do suit dress pieces, and of course it is very slender and low profile at only 10.1. Let's check the articulation. Articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, so it is a fluid Milanese bracelet. Now, in terms of articulation, to clarify, it does articulate freely, however, it doesn't articulate or flex as much as a flat link bracelet, beads of rice bracelet, oyster style bracelet, or alternatively Jubilee style bracelet, but it does flex none the rest. What I like about it is it's not sloppy. It doesn't have too much play in it, feels nice and tight, so the quality of the weave of the Milanese mesh is nice and tight in the links. It's excellent. No sharp edge to the top edge or the lower edge of the flanks, and what I like about the Milanese mesh is its low profile. It's not too thick, so the benefit of this is it flexes around the wrist very well, it wraps around the wrist with a nice fluid feeling to it. It feels perfectly smooth on the top side and underside, and also there are no sharp edges on the top edge or the lower edge of the flanks, therefore it does not pull arm hairs. Looks good, feels good, mirror polishing is flawless, and it's got a beautiful luster to it, so it looks fantastic. So let's look at the clasp in detail. So flip lock clasp, which is good. I'm pleased to see a flip lock used, and I'll clarify why, because the style of clasp is rather like a Casio digital watch bracelet clasp, so it simply has this clasp which closes, as you can see, and we've got two hooks which engage upon a bar, so visually it does look and feel very similar to a Casio clasp. Now, the negative of those Casio style clasps, they have the two hooks engaging on the bar. Just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus, and then you close the clasp, it snaps closed with a nice positive click. The problem is sometimes you can catch the clasp and it can flick open like so. And then of course the problem is the two hooks disengage from the bar, and of course then the bracelet opens and the piece falls on the ground. So to secure it better, Hanhart have got the clasp, which is Casio style, snaps closed on the bar with the two hooks, which is secure. But then to secure it rather like a dive watch clasp with flip block, they've got this flip block which goes across it and snaps closed. This is excellent because this then prevents the inner clasp from flicking up as per a Casio bracelet. So actually looks good, but also works well. That's the point. It's low profile. Now, what I like about it is the high definition engraving of the original Hanhart font of their logo in the 1930s, used on the original caliber 3639. This is true to the original. It's low profile. It's not too bulky, and the other thing I like about it is it's very easy to adjust, rather like the Casio watch bracelets, because you simply have this inner lock, as you can see, which has a slot in it, and you simply put a 1.6mm screwdriver into it and flick it up, and then you can adjust it up and down the length of the bracelet to get the perfect sizing, and then you just press it down with your thumb or index finger and it clicks solidly and it clamps onto the bracelet, and it's very secure. And as you can see, solid stainless steel. They've engraved it with stainless steel with high definition engraving, and it does lock very well. I've tested adjusting it up and down the length of the Milanese bracelet, and I can tell you the lock works very well. When you press it down with your thumb or index finger, it really does clamp it very tightly, so it's not going to slip out of position once you've set it, once you've sized it to suit your wrist size. The other thing I like about it is the proportions of the two hooks are good, and there's a nice heavy gauge to the folded 316L grade stainless steel hooks. They're not going to deform and accidentally come off the bar. The bar also has a nice heavy gauge to it. It's a good wide diameter, so the two hooks engage very well onto the bar. They're not going to accidentally disengage, and it closes with a nice positive click, which is reassuring, and then the flip lock also closes with a nice positive secondary click, like so. And once it's done up with a flip lock engaged, absolutely no risk whatsoever. You cannot lift up the inner flip lock. It's secure, it's locked, rather like a dive watch flip lock clasp. I like it. I think it's simple, works well, easy to adjust. So I'll show you the case back. Screw down exhibition case back provides an effective hermetic seal to 50 metres. Now, there's one thing I dislike about it subjectively. It's got Made in Germany engraved. Now, subjectively one could say, well, that matches Made in Germany on the dial, and of course Hanhart are right to be proud of that. However, I would prefer if it had the German for Made in Germany, which is Hergestellt in Deutschland. Because on some Hanhart pieces, on the solid stainless steel case backs, they have embossed Hergestellt in Deutschland, which means Made in Germany in German. The reason why I dislike it saying Made in Germany is because there's a clash. Because on the rotor, it has the German Uhrenmanufaktur seit 1882, which means manufactured since 1882 in Germany. Uhrenmanufaktur seit 1882. Now, of course, that is appropriate to have that on the rotor because it's a German-made piece. Of course, it's powered by a Swiss-made caliber, the Soprod caliber P024. But they deserve credit here because they could have just used the Soprod sterile rotor, but they've signed it. And of course, they're very proud to say that manufactured since 1882, the foundation of the brand, which is true. But there's a clash because we've got German language on the rotor, Uhrenmanufaktur seit 1882, but then we've got Made in Germany in English. I would prefer if this piece just used one language throughout. On the dial, case back, rotor. German, alternatively English, but not a mixture. So, for example, on the dial, instead of Made in Germany, they could have Hergestellt in Deutschland, and then on the case back, Hergestellt in Deutschland. And then, as an alternative to Uhrenmanufaktur seit 1882, they could have Hergestellt in Deutschland. So it would say Made in Germany, Made in Germany, Made in Germany. That's the point I'm making. Now, what they've done is they put Made in Germany because they appreciate that not everybody speaks German and they might not understand Hergestellt in Deutschland. And of course, on the rotor, Uhrenmanufaktur seit 1882 does fit quite nicely. So I can understand why they've done that as an alternative to just having a Soprod rotor. The other thing they could have done to the skeletonized rotor is simply have Hanhart 1882. But again, this is subjective, it's personal taste. But I prefer to see on a German piece Hergestellt in Deutschland as per the other solid stainless steel casebacks. But with regards to the caseback, it's a screwed down exhibition case back. So I'll clarify what I mean. A screw down exhibition case back has an external thread on the case back which mates or engages with an internal case thread. Now, screwed down case backs are an alternative because we've got 4 flat-head screws which have domed caps and they're mirror polished to perfection. The benefit of using a screwed down case back versus a screw down case back is the case back can be made thinner and lower profile. This is 5 ATM, which is 50 metres. Now, the benefit of this is, rather than having a 100 metre or 200 metre case back as per a dive piece, which is screwed down, this can be made thinner. And they fully utilised or fully maximised the benefit of this because it's not a deep bubble back case back. Now, one has to be magnanimous here because the Soprod Calibre P024 automatic is a clone of the ETA 2824-2, rather like the SW200-1 is a clone of it. It's a thick calibre and therefore the rotor does need additional clearance to prevent the rotor fouling the underside of the sapphire crystal glazing. So, casebacks do need to be deeper, they can't be perfectly flat, but they've made the correct decision here by reducing the water resistance to 50 metres versus 100 because the sapphire crystal can be thinner in the glazing. The stainless steel portion can also be made thinner. So, the benefit is, this is not a deep bubble back caseback one often sees with the Soprod P024 powered piece. It's actually very flat in the centre section. The stainless steel portion does have a slight dome to it, but it's not very deep, but does provide adequate clearance for the rotor without it fouling. So they've got it correct. So by having these 4 stainless steel screws in the 4 corners versus a screw down case back with a thread, this means the stainless steel portion can be made thinner. The problem is with a screw down case back, it needs to have a thread cut into it and therefore there needs to be more meat, there needs more thickness to the stainless steel portion to take the depth of the thread. One cannot do that with a very thin stainless steel portion as per this one. So what they've done is they've got these corners on it and they've screwed it down to the head of the piece on the lugs. Actually works very well because it provides 50 metres of hermetic seal, but they've been able to slim it down. The benefit of it overall is this piece is only 10.1. Even though it has a double dome sapphire crystal on the front, even though it has an exhibition case back, which of course adds thickness, this is still only 10.1. I would expect this to be 12mm plus, bearing in mind it's powered by a P024 automatic, which is thick. So it's fantastic. Very low profile. Mirror polishing is stellar. Absolutely flawless. Engraving is high definition and crisp, and they've engraved the specification and the model, silver, 5 ATM, made in Germany, and also the serial number of the piece. And as I've detailed, each silver has a unique 4-digit serial number. Excellent. What I like about it is centre section is flat because of the sapphire crystal glazing, perfectly smooth. This enhances comfort level and feel good factor. Now, subjectively, I'm going to be critical of the end links because, not the end links themselves, the caps are well finished, there's no sharp edges, but the spring bars, because they've used standard stainless steel spring bars. Now, in the absence of pierced lugs with holes, it can be difficult because you can see the end caps don't allow for much movement in the ends of the spring bars. So it can be difficult to engage a spring bar tool on the grooves on the spring bar to depress it and remove the Milanese bracelet. So I think quick release stainless steel spring bars would further enhance this piece, because the other problem is there is a risk with a spring bar tool. You can slip off the spring bar and then of course scuff and scratch the mirror polish caps to the Milanese bracelet or scuff and scratch the lugs. Now when I'm changing a bracelet, you'll know this in my previous reviews, I always use capped on polyamide tape to protect the lugs to prevent that, but nonetheless it can be difficult to remove these kind of spring bars when there's very tight tolerances, because there isn't much of a gap between the end cap of the Milanese bracelet and the internals of the lugs. That's the point I'm making. So I think quick release stainless steel spring bars would be beneficial, but nonetheless the end caps or the end links on the Milanese mesh bracelet are a nice tight fit, so it's good tolerances. So underside of the piece has flawless mirror polishing, nice curvature to the tips of the lugs, no sharp corners, and the undercuts to the flanks have large mirror polish bevels that deletes the sharp edge on the transitions. Fantastic finishing throughout. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot of both pieces, just bear with me, I'll remove my Concord 40. So we'll do the Pistachio first, and then we'll do the Rosé, to see how both dial colours look. Now, to clarify, I have adjusted both of these Milanese mesh bracelets to their absolute maximums because I want you to see the maximum length this Milanese bracelet will support. So, to clarify, to fit it, you need to open the flip block first. Then you open the second clasp block, close the clasp lock first, snap shut with a nice positive click. This engages the two hooks on the bar, and then you close the flip lock over it. Snap shut with a nice positive click. It's now perfectly secured. This is not going to come undone. You're not going to accidentally flick it up if you catch it. So, maximum length now. You can adjust this down to a 6-inch minimum very easily, and you can adjust it to a maximum 8-inch wrist size. Now, you can see I can easily slide an index finger beneath the bracelet and clasp at all times. This would fit even up to an 8.5-inch wrist size. An index finger beneath the bracelet and clasp is the correct sizing method. I have referred to this in a plethora of my reviews, but I will reiterate it for the benefit of those of you that have not heard it. An index finger beneath the bracelet and clasp is the correct sizing method for all bracelets. Reason being, it allows for wrist expansion in warmer weather or when one is active. So therefore it allows 1/2 inch of extension on the bracelet and clasp when the wrist swells up. So this is now sized correctly. It's loose. It allows the bracelet to flow up and down the wrist. 8.5 maximum, 6-inch minimum very easily. So you can see it's low profile. This is what I like about it. Visually, it does look rather like a Casio clasp, but we've got the addition of the flip lock, which enhances it, because unlike Casio clasp, which can accidentally open, this cannot, because it's now locked with a flip lock, rather like a dive watch clasp. So, feels comfortable, that's the point. No sharp edges to the undercuts to the flanks. When it moves up and down the wrist, it doesn't scratch the wrist. The flanks of the Milanese mesh also do not have sharp edges. They do not feel sharp. They don't feel rough. They don't scratch the wrist. They do not pull arm hairs. This Milanese bracelet has a nice fine weave to the mesh. It looks good, feels good. Now, it does have a very slight taper, 20mm at the lugs, very slightly tapering down to 19.6. But this is good. It looks visually, it does look very straight and parallel, but that is appropriate for a daily wear piece and potentially a dress piece. Comfort level is fantastic. This is one of the most comfortable bracelets I have experienced. I've reviewed over 500 pieces on my channel. Low tier, mid tier, high tier. Flat link bracelets, beads of rice bracelets, oyster style bracelets, jubilee style bracelets. And I can tell you, this Milanese mesh, which is a very fine weave of Milanese mesh bracelets, this articulates beautifully. It flexes very well. It wraps around the wrist very well. Feels weightless on wrist. Perfectly smooth on the underside. No sharp edges to the flanks. When it floats up and down the wrist, doesn't feel sharp, doesn't pull arm hairs. It just feels invisible. Really complements the head of the piece because this does not feel top heavy like a thick slab of 316L grade stainless steel. It feels perfectly balanced. And what I like about this piece is the proportions. Above all else, the lack of heft. 102 grams is stellar. For a 38.5mm head of the piece on a Milanese bracelet, 102 grams feels weightless. The other thing I like about it above all else is the lack of thickness. 10.1. Now if this were 12mm, of course it would sit on top of the wrist like a thick slab of 316L grade stainless steel. And one could expect 12mm plus because double dome sapphire crystal exhibition case back adds thickness, and one has to be magnanimous. The P024 automatic is a thicker caliber. But Hanhart deserve credit because they have slimmed this down to only 10.1. You'll know from my previous reviews, 13mm and below is the sweet spot because 13 will easily slip underneath the shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. Needless to say, at 10.1, this is well below the 13 sweet spot. This will easily slip underneath the shirt cuff. Therefore, it is a practical daily wear piece. Does have enough wrist presence to satisfy at 38.5. Visually, it does look and wear more like a 39 because it's just 0.5mm below that. So, benefit of that is, does have enough wrist presence to satisfy, but doesn't dominate the wrist. Doesn't look too large as per a 40 or a 41 for a dress piece. This does look beautiful for a daily wear piece, and it also looks beautiful for a dress piece. I do really like the pistachio tone of the dial because it's matte. This is the point. It's not glossy enamel and shiny, it's not sunray finish, and it's not textured, it's smooth, but yet it's matte. They've got the balance of the pistachio tone perfected because it's matte without being a rough textured finish. It's perfectly smooth. But it's non-reflective, that's the point. So when you look at the piece straight on, the sapphire crystal looks invisible. Perfect clarity to the dial, perfect clarity to the handset, and I like it's a symmetrical dial without a date complication. The silver dots which are applied do have the original aesthetic of the caliber 3639 from the 1930s, but also adds interest rather than just having indices on the dial or printed indices in black. The silver dots, which are mirror polished to perfection, do add interest to the matte dial because the silver dots are mirror polished versus the matte finish of the Pistachio and the matte finish of the black handset. Fantastic looking piece. Versatility is there. Can be worn as a daily wear piece, can be worn as a dress piece. 20mm is the correct lug width for a 38.5. Now, thing to note is this does have a very compact case, 44mm. That's 4mm below the 48 sweet spot. Now, I often refer to 48mm as the sweet spot, the perfect lug to lug, because 48 is the industry standard for good reason. 48 lug to lug fits all wrist sizes, 6 to 7 and 7 to 8 inches respectively. So at 44, it is well below that. However, I'm not going to be critical in this case. So why so? Well, the case shape of this piece is vintage. It looks like a 1930s case shape. Beautiful. Nice curvature to the lugs, but one has to be mindful of the fact we're not looking to brace it with female pitted end links or male end links here. We've got the spring bar and we've got this flat cap on the end of the Milanese mesh. It's mirror polished, so it's very aesthetically pleasing, but because we have this gap between the end cap of the Milanese bracelet to the head of the piece, it does need to be shortened down because, for example, if they used a 48 lug to lug, which is the sweet spot, the lugs would look too long, rather like a Nomos piece, which has straight angular lugs. Some collectors like that aesthetic, but for a daily wear dress piece, a compact lug to lug looks good. It's more aesthetically pleasing. I think a 48 lug to lug on this piece, although the fits would be good, visually it would look too long. The lugs would look too long. 48 is very compact and actually works very well with a 38.5 diameter. The piece looks like a dress piece. That's the point I'm making. It looks compact, it looks small, rather unlike a piece which has lugs which are far too long. So if they extended it to 48, the fit would be good, but visually it would not look good. That's the point. They've got the balance correct. Now, on a positive note, the fit of this piece will fit you to perfection if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, because you will particularly appreciate the 44 lug to lug because the lugs curve around the wrist very well. They don't angle, they don't stick out, they're not flat. Curvature is fantastic on the undercuts, curvature is fantastic on the top. And you can see the benefit. There's a minimal gap beneath the tips of the lugs because they've got a curved end to them. They're not angular, they're not pointed, that's the point. Visually it deletes the meat, but the other thing I like is just look how snug it fits to the wrist. No gap whatsoever. Case back is perfectly flat in the centre due to the sapphire crystal glazing. So this piece really wraps around the wrist. It doesn't sit on top of it like a thick slab of 316L grade stainless steel. The curvature is fantastic, rather like a tonneau case. So I love the fit. Feel good factor is 10 out of 10. Comfort level is 10 out of 10. The balance between the head of the piece and the Milanese mesh bracelet is perfected. There's enough meat on the bracelet. It's thick enough. It's heavy enough to give balance. It doesn't feel like a head of the piece which is top heavy on a bracelet which is too lightweight, because one has to appreciate this does not have a solid clasp. It's just a flip-lock clasp, rather like a Casio digital watch. But the point is the bracelet has enough meat because it's not tapered. Had they used the 20 to 16 perfection personified taper, that would have deleted too much meat from the Milanese mesh. This does need to be straight and parallel. Now it does have a very slight taper, 20 to 19.6. It's only 0.4 millimeters of taper across the length. It's negligible. It looks and feels like a straight 20 to 20 taper. But point I'm making is it's not 20 to 16, so there is plenty of meat at the head of the piece, there's plenty of meat at the clasp, and it needs to have that to balance the head. So this is fantastic. Looks good, feels good, beautiful luster to the Milanese mesh. Mirror polishing is just fantastic. Low profile flip lock clasp, doesn't look too bulky, doesn't feel too heavy, and very low profile. 10.1 is like a quartz piece, it's like a mechanical manual wine piece without a rotor. They really deserve credit. It's very impressive to see 10.1 with a Soprod P024 power piece. So I'll give you a wrist shot with the Rosé version, and then we'll test the crown execution. Works very well, opens easily. So, now I've done the same thing with this one. I have adjusted the clasp on the Milanese mesh to its absolute maximum. So, you need to open up the flip lock first, like so, and then you engage the two hooks on the bar, like so. So just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus. So 2 hooks are engaged on the bar, close the inner portion clasp, clicks with a nice heavy click. I like the sound of it. Sounds heavy, reliable and robust. I'm confident in it. And I like the feeling of it. When you close it with your thumb or your index finger, it really has a nice heavy click. Close the flip lock, second click. Beautiful. Feels good, looks good, beautiful luster to it. I like the original Hanhart signed logo from the 1930s. So again, I can easily slide an index finger. This will fit up to 8.5. This is on its absolute maximum length now. So, rosé version, fantastic. Again, matte finish. What I like about it is it's not glossy enamel finish, it's not sunray finish, and it's not matte textured finish. The dial is smooth, but it's not textured and rough. It's smooth but matte. Not reflective, but the silver dots are mirror polished and they do contrast. So, quality of the printing is fantastic. The black Arabic numerals, which are the original font of the caliber 3639 from the 1930s and the handset, contrast very well with a matte rosé dial. Beautiful tone to it. Does give the piece a dress watch aesthetic, and again, I like the versatility. Can also be worn as a daily wear piece. Lovely tone to it. And the pink tone of the rosé is just gorgeous. And I love the matte finish of it. Legibility is fantastic. When you view the piece straight on, same as the Pistachio, the AR coating is fantastic. The sapphire crystal has perfect clarity. It looks invisible. Very easy to read the time due to the large fonts used for the Arabic numerals, the large indices which are printed in black, and the large black minute ticks. Symmetrical dial is good, and I absolutely love the contrast between the black handset, black Arabic numerals, black indices, and the attention to detail made in Germany at the 6 o'clock beneath the 6 o'clock Arabic numeral and index, and just the Hanhart vintage logo as per the 1930s. 10.1, fantastic, 44 lug to lug, 20mm lug width, beautiful luster to the Milanese mesh bracelet. It's just a fantastic looking piece from every angle. I prefer the Pistachio to the Rosé, but this is subjective. It comes down to whether you prefer a Pistachio or Rosé dial. I also like the black and white versions of the silver, which were produced in 2023. They also have matte dials versus glossy enamel dials. They are very aesthetically pleasing. So they are still available from hanhart.com. Of the two, I think the Pistachio version is the best. I think it has the edge over this Rosé, but it's got a lovely light pink tone to it on the Rosé version, and the AR coating is fantastic. So comfort level and feel good factor is stellar. Balance is stellar. 10.1 is fantastic. It enhances comfort level and feel good factor. 102 grams, lacks heft. It's the perfect daily wear piece and also dress piece. I like the versatility. Clasp works very well. Right, so we don't need to do a loom test because there is no loom on the dial or hands. So I'll move on to discussing the movement. Just bear with me. I'll put back on my Concord 40 and continue. Right, so let's discuss the movement use because it's my favourite aspect of the piece. So this is powered by the Soprod Caliber P024 automatic, which is Swiss made. The P024 is a clone of the ETA 2824-2, rather like the SW200-1 is a clone of the aforementioned. However, although the architecture between the three calibers, the P024, the ETA 2824-2 and the SW200-1 is the same, there is a notable difference. The SW200-1 has an additional joule added, so it's 26 joules. The P024 used in this piece has the same 25 joules as the ETA 2824-2, which it is a clone of. Runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. Skeletonized rotor, and as I've detailed, rather than just using the sterile Soprod rotor, they've skeletonized it and they've also printed it in grey and black, and it has Uhren manufacture Seit 1882, which in German means manufactured since 1882. Now, hand winding and hacking, which are used for complications, and they work well. We'll do that with a crown test. There is no phantom date setting position. Now, that may come as a pleasant surprise to you. Now, to clarify, the Solite SW200-1 is available in two versions, the SW-1A and the SW200-1B. The 1A is the date version and the 1B has the date complication deleted. Soprod P024 can also be used in date or no date versions. This one uses the no date version, and that's beneficial because we do not have a phantom date setting position. There's only one click on the crown. 38-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. It's regulated in 5 positions by Hanhart. The stated accuracy is plus or minus 7 seconds per day. This one has been regulated to plus 2 seconds per day. So plus 2 is well within the stated accuracy of plus or minus 7. It's actually within chronometer limits of minus 4 to plus 6. So 38 hours is good. Hand winding and hacking works well. And plus 2 when fully wound to its maximum 38 hours, is chronometer accurate. Excellent calibre. Reliability is good. Build quality, quality control, materials and finishing are equal to the standard grade of Sellita calibre SW200-1 and standard grade ETA calibre 2824-2. There is no difference in terms of quality, build quality, reliability, quality control, materials and finishing between the three calibres. ETA 2824-2, P024, SW200-1. Standard grade is equal across the three. Accuracy is also equal across the three when they're regulated in 5 positions to chronometer limits. Plus or minus 7, this one's plus 2. Excellent. So, just bear with me, I'll do back up the clasp, and then what I'll do is, just to make it easy to hold the piece, when I do the crown execution test. So I'll test the crown execution on both the Pistachio and also the Rosé version. So, push-pull crown, coin edge finished, large chamfer which deletes the tips of the coin edge teeth, mirror polished domed cap. Now, what I like is, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. We have the original font used on the original 1930s Hanhart H emblem. So the H matches the H font used in the Hanhart 1930s logo on the dial, also matches the Hanhart original 1930s logo on the clasp. So what they've done is they embossed rather than engraving or debossed the H. Quality of the mirror polishing to the embossed H is fantastic, and it's good to see it signed versus sterile and unsigned. So push-pull crown 50 meters. When it's closed, we're in the manual wind position. One doesn't need to unscrew it and pull out the crown to manually wind. Feels smooth. Now, in terms of how it feels, it doesn't feel rough or gritty as per a PT5000. It doesn't feel too stiff. One can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up to its maximum 38 hours. Now, in terms of smoothness, there's no discernible difference between manually winding a Soprod calibre P024 and an ETA 2824-2 and an SW200-1. The architecture is the same. So the manual winding feels the same. The point is it doesn't feel rough and gritty as per a PT5000. I like it. Pulling it out to the first click position is the final click. If you look at the second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead. So the benefit of this P024 is it doesn't have a phantom date setting position. There's no date wheel, there's no phantom date setting position. The date complication has been deleted, rather like the SW200-1B, the B version being the no date version of the A, respectively. So, I like that this doesn't have a phantom date setting position. I like it only has one click on the crown for hacking and setting the time. So we're now in the time setting position. Now feels smooth. Again, in terms of smoothness, there's no discernible difference between the P024 and the ETA 2824-2 and the SW200-1. They feel the same. Clockwise and anti-clockwise, doesn't feel too stiff, doesn't get lighter or heavier. When you rotate it clockwise and anti-clockwise through the 12 hours, feels exactly the same. Good meshing in the gearing, feels nice and tight. And in terms of backplay, when you rotate the coin edge crown, there's an almost immediate response to the minute hand. So you don't need to take up a lot of slack in the gearing. The backplay is the same as an SW200-1. The backplay is the same as the ETA 2824-2. There is no discernible difference in the movements. So, feels good, feels refined. And there is some slight backplay, but once you become accustomed to it, it's perfectly acceptable. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. Now, what I like about it is, and the same applies to the P024, the ETA 2824-2 and the SW200-1 respectively, they all run at 4 Hz, which is 28,800 vibrations per hour. So you'll know this from my previous reviews, but I'll reiterate it. I like a 4 Hz sweep because one has this aesthetically pleasing, smooth sweep. It doesn't stutter or judder as per a 3 Hz sweep running at 21,600 vibrations per hour, such as an NH35A, which you're all familiar with. The 4 Hz sweep has a nice smooth sweep, but also it's the perfect compromise, the perfect balance for an automatic. Because 4 Hz and 28,800 vibrations per hour gives the balance between power reserve and accuracy. If one extends power reserve, one has to sacrifice accuracy. If one refines accuracy, often one has to sacrifice power reserve. 4 Hz gives a good compromise. Good accuracy, good power reserve. This is plus 2 seconds per day accuracy. Well within the plus or minus 7. Plus 2 is chronometer accurate, but 38 hours is still enough power reserve. Reliability is good. The P024 is reliable, it's well proven, it's a good, solid workhorse Swiss calibre, and I've got no reservations, no qualms about the reliability whatsoever. The standard P024 is the same reliability as the standard ETA 2824-2. It's the same as the standard SW200-1 grade respectively. So reliability is equal to Soprod, ETA and Solita respectively. The three calibers have the same reliability. They are more reliable than the HK Precision Technology PT5000. That often suffers with reliability defects due to lack of lubrication, and also the winding gears seize up due to the aforementioned lack of lubrication. So P024 does not have that issue. It's well lubricated versus the PT5000, which does have problems with lubrication. I like it. It's an equal choice to the SW200-1. It's an equal choice to the ETA 2824-2. All three are the same. Reliability, accuracy, build quality, quality control. Every aspect. So, excellent choice of caliber and appropriate for €990. So, I'll test the push-pull crown on this one. Just bear with me. I'll do back up the clasp just to make it easy to handle when I test the crown execution. So 50 meters, push-pull crown. Let's test the manual winding. Feels exactly the same. Smooth, doesn't feel too stiff, doesn't feel rough or gritty as per a PT5000. Putting it out to the first click is the final click. Hacks the movement. Hacking works well. Feels smooth, clockwise and anti-clockwise. Doesn't get tighter or looser, feels even all the way through the 360 degrees, which is good. Nice meshing of the gearing. Feels exactly the same as an SW200-1, feels exactly the same as an ETA 2824-2, which it is a clone of. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click. That restarts the movement. Again, nice smooth sweep to the 4 Hz sweep. Stellar. No difference between the two. Push-pull crown feels exactly the same. 50 meters is perfectly acceptable for a daily wear piece. One doesn't need a screw-down crown and 100 meters or 200 meters. We're not looking at a dive piece. This is a daily wear piece or a dress piece. 50 meters and push-pull crown is acceptable. So, lastly, I'll summarise the pieces. What do I think of them overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meets 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price points. So, €990, we are looking at a mid-tier piece. To remind you, mid-tier is €500 to €5,000. So at €990, these are well within the mid-tier. I'm going to declare these excellent quality and excellent value at €990. Hanhart deserve credit here because they have got the balance between vintage aesthetic, because this piece is inspired by the vintage 1930s caliber 36-39, and modern day contemporary specification and proportions. 38.5 is contemporary, and also it's modern day specification because we have the benefit of sapphire crystal with AR coating versus acrylic as per 1930s pieces. The other benefit is modern contemporary movement. Soprod caliber P024 automatic, it's chronometer accurate, plus 2 seconds per day. The stated accuracy is plus or minus 7. So excellent choice of caliber. Swiss made caliber in a German made piece. Milanese mesh bracelet is fantastic. Comfort level and feel good factor of both pieces is stellar. Very well balanced, correctly proportioned, and particularly suitable for a 6 to 7 inch wrist due to the short 44 lug to lug. Above all else, lack of heft at 102 grams is fantastic. Thickness is fantastic at 10.1. Low profile piece, lacks heft, feels balanced. I prefer the Pistachio version to the Rosé, but the Rosé is also aesthetically pleasing, very suitable for a dress piece. I like the versatility because these can be used as daily wear pieces, alternatively dress pieces, due to the design, the proportions and the Milanese mesh. Also, the silver is available still in black and white dial versions if the Pistachio and Rosé are not to your personal taste. Same price. And again, if the Milanese mesh isn't to your personal taste, they also retail these pieces on black leather straps with contrasting white stitching as an alternative. So I'm going to declare this piece a champagne watch for lemonade money. I hope you enjoyed my review of the Hanhart Silva Pistachio and Rosé versions. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.